know, we start out in life as little kids, and we quickly start saying, I like this, I don't like that. I'm the godmother of a 2-year-old, and let me tell you how very strong it is at the age of 2 to hear, I like, I don't like. But haven't we grown up that way, saying, I like these kind of activities, I don't like those kind of activities. I'm this kind of person, I'm not that kind of person. I'd never do that. I always do that, do this. And we don't just do it in our personal lives, we get to business, our businesses. And we say, oh, I like doing these kind of activities and I'm good, and I don't like these kind of activities. We, after a while, have formed a bubble around ourselves that we try to live inside of most of the time, filling it with things we like to do and things that we're good at. You know, when we go out to restaurants, we're choosing the restaurant that will have the kind of food we want. When we're looking at entertainment, we're going to those entertainment areas that give us something we like to do. When we have a night off, we're doing stuff. But have you ever done something completely out of character? Something you said you'd never do. And then just once you just said, I'm going to do it. It was a Friday night, and I was sitting home in my house, and I'm single. And I'm going, oh my gosh, and this is back in the day when you had the choice to meet somebody by going to a bar, where there's a lot of smoking, or staying home. I'm not very good at bars. In fact, you should put me as the wing person next to the person that's going to get all the attention, because I don't know what to say or do. I looked down at the newspaper, and there were personal ads there. It's Friday night, and this time, you called in the box number, and you got to hear on the phone a person talk about themselves. Well, folks, I did something I said I would never do. I answered one personal ad and married the man 7 months later. We had that kind of marriage where every year it got better. That's not what you usually hear in media, is it? But we actually got better. Now, there were irritating things he did that I was quick to tell him about early in the relationship, and later, as you get more mature in your relationship, I just called them Billyisms. They were just Bill being Bill. 12 years into our marriage, suddenly my husband, who was going to 90-minute kickboxing classes and very healthy, suddenly had trouble breathing. We had an exploratory surgery done, and this surgeon came to me and said, Bill, you have 2 months to live. You have mesothelioma cancer. There's no cure for it. Wow. Do you know what I said at that point? What now? You know, haven't some of you been encouraged to have a vision board, or at least a vision of the future? I mean, come on, we do this in the corporate world. We have visions of where we're going. Nowhere on my vision board did I have the fact that this would be happening to us. And we made that 2 months turn into 11 months. But I became a single woman again 11 months later. And now I'm really saying, what now? But when I really work around this room, and if I were to sit down and talk with each of you, the unwanted, the unknown, the unexpected, it happens to all of us, doesn't it? And when I run seminars with people on change, most people by the time they're 40 can tell me at least 10 or more times when something happened in their life that wasn't wanted. It could have been financial, it could have been job or career, it could be health, and don't forget that biggie, relationships, where suddenly something happens and our life is forever changed going forward. So it's not unusual, it's not different, but our society doesn't prepare us for these unexpected changes. You know, we are very positive about life, and we should be. But it's not just individuals that go through these kind of changes. We see across the business world continuously how things suddenly change and factors happen. Now, you've heard today in this seminar a lot of people talking about change. And I can throw out a bunch of facts to you, but I want to do an exercise with you that is a little bit different with you. So I'm going to ask these two people to come forward. And Brian, if you'll hold this, and I want you to be there. And we're going to take it all the way across. And Brian, take it back a little bit more. Okay, if you'll hold this end. There's a very famous economist who is named Charles Adderley, and he basically came up with a model to be able to show how we're changing. And so some of you can guess because of what we have going up here that I'm going to have you come forward a little bit forward. I'm going to have some volunteers in the audience. And he said, okay, I'm going to go over here and give you 1 AD, and I'm going to go over here and give you now. So this line now represents 2018 years of our life. And if over here at 1 AD, Charles said, let's take all the information that's out there and available. We people have something that no other animal or no other living creature has. We have a voice box that allows us to make a lot of conversation words. Our brain isn't necessarily bigger than everybody else, but our voice box allows us to communicate. So let's take all the information at 1 AD that's in the world, and we're going to call that 1 unit. How long do you think it takes for that 1 unit of information to become 2 units? Well, Paul, since you're sitting there, I'm going to have you jump up here, and I'm going to have you come and stand on the back side of this line, and I'm going to give him a card that says 1,500 years. It took 1,500 years, and if you'll just hold your hand on here, 1,500 years for us to double the amount of information. Okay, folks, we got 2 units now. How long do you think it takes it to double again? And come on, mathematics-wise, I know it's late in the afternoon. It's 2, it would be how many units? 4. Okay, so how long do you think it takes it took us 1,500 to get there. How long do you think it's going to take for the next one? It's going to be 1750, and I'm going to have you come up.
Me?
Yep.
I have to go with my jacket.
No. This is called Don't Get Too Comfortable because you'll be on camera. And I'm going to have you hold this red line, and if you'll hold 1,500. Okay, so it's now, we've gone 2, 4 units, 1750. How long now do you think it's going to take to go and double again, which would be 8? It's going to be 1900. Susan, will you come up and be our 1900? And this is our 8 unit. I have my cheater numbers back here on the back of it. But okay, so we can now, one of the things that happened to make this be shorter is we now have the printing press. And now if we talk about how long does it take for us to go from 1900 and double it again, what do you think is going to happen? You're nodding. Give me a number.
I'm going to go probably...
16 units now. It's not just, 2 more. 16.
I'm going to go 2,000.
Come on up here. It's going to be 1950. Okay, so now we're up to 16 units of knowledge out there available. Okay, how long to go 16 to go 32? Steve, come on.
60.
Okay, come on up here. It's going to be 1960, and he can actually see because we have this mark. So you're going to hold right there. You're going to hold here, right here, and you guys got to be really friendly. How much time to double again, folks? Amy, will you jump up here, and will you go to 1967, and now we're at 72 units. And how much now? So if he was actually holding, he would be holding it here. We're here. How much to double it again? Karen, come on up here. It's called How to Empty Out Your Audience. I know. If you go up here and hold the next one. Guess what's happening now when we come? This is when his study ended. Take a look here, folks. What happens if we continue to do the behaviors that got us success at one point? I mean, here, the difference between here and here is not really huge. But start taking a look at the difference between 60, 67, 73, and now it is estimated that every 18 months, the amount of information is doubling. Would you give these guys a round of applause? And you can just put your signs down on right here, and we can let this just put on the floor. I've got you. It's called Hangman when we stop. I do this exercise just to give you a visual that starts to mean something to you. So one of the biggest problems we have is things that we put inside this bubble that fit us in the past, that says, this is who I am. These are the things I like. If I don't like social media, can I be in business anymore? If I don't do certain kinds of things, I am left behind. And one of the biggest problems we have in business is if you have been successful in the past, what do we like to do with things that worked for us, people? We keep wanting to repeat and repeat and repeat. I've worked with a lot of Fortune 100 companies. I've worked with governments. I've worked with private nonprofit organizations. I've worked with associations. And all of us want to continue doing what we've done before because it's familiar. And plus, aren't we all overworked? So when you say we have to do something different, that takes energy. And I already don't know how to answer my 200 emails and get to these 4 meetings. And that phone, has all these messages waiting for me. We are overworked. But if we aren't continuously changing, I can tell you, Marriott was one of my customers. I can tell you they never thought in any of the strategic planning meetings that we worked together with, they never thought that Airbnb would take their business. I'm a former Citigroup executive from New York. I can tell you we never thought Quicken would make more loans than a bank. We can take a look at what we have quickly gotten used to. I mean, is there anybody in this room who hasn't done an Uber or a Lyft? And not only that, but what it is now we expect to be able to grab our phones as we get off the airplanes and get our luggage, immediately have somebody come pick us up, get in that piece, and not have to worry about paying for it when we get there because it's already taken care of. If I get in a cab, I'm in a cab line, I'm waiting, and I'm impatient. I might have been impatient before, but I didn't have other choices. And not only that, but if you take a look at who are the forerunners out there, they're changing every day. They're trying new things. We all have to be looking at our businesses and saying, if I'm not saying, this is something I would never do, and then try it, something different. Now, let me get back to my story. I told you I lost my husband, and I was going, what now? I'm a change management expert, right? I should be really good at this. I went out, and I'm an overachiever, if you can't guess. I went out there and did everything I was supposed to do in spades. And life wasn't coming together for me. Yes, I could function, but I couldn't excel. I couldn't be better. I couldn't be passionate about life. So I did something I said I would never do. I learned to ride a motorcycle. I went on a motorcycle trip. Now, my book, Blind Curves, will tell you much more about that, and because today I'm not going to go into that, but I can tell you, whenever you finally do something out of your norm, that trip, I went on 30 days after I sat on the motorcycle for the first time, I went on a 2,500-mile road trip down the west coast of Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, driving my own motorcycle with 50 pounds of luggage behind me because we women don't travel light. Now, you can imagine this trip I thought was going to be, I got to leave Linda behind. I got to do something out of character. Guess what, folks? Linda came with me, and that's a trip where I started to realize a lot of things about Linda, even though it was outside my everyday world. I started realizing because when you're wearing leathers, everybody comes up to you and talks to you. I'm talking to people I would never normally talk to. I'm going over a bridge on a motorcycle that is 4 miles long, and I can see water down below, and I don't do heights. Guess what, folks? I did heights. That whole trip, every day, presented something new. My challenge for you is to take a look at the comfort zone. We keep talking about thinking outside of the box. This is a box we self-created. We self-create the same box in our business world. Every business has to be looking at that box. Now, I'm not going to do the phrase that you always hear, which is thinking outside of the box, because that's not the box I want to talk about. I want to talk about blowing up the box. The only way you're going to find new things is if you give up that protection and say, yeah, I'm going to be uncomfortable when I try something new. It's not going to be as easy as what was before. But guess what? When you start to excel at that new thing, it becomes a real energizer. And that's what we have to do with our whole life, is to continuously say, what can I do today? We're no longer doing big, huge change interventions. People are doing little ones daily, and try it out. See what works. So I often call this chaotic creation. We don't just create out of a center thought and say, this is what we're doing for the next years. We open doors labeled not me. We try new things. We see how it works. And even if we take a look at the best players, we'll find that they're trying new things, and sometimes it fails the first time, but it works the second time. So right now, Walmart, we see trying online services and things. They are trying it, and it worked, and now it's not working. That's what we're all going to experience. The other thing I want to say to you about change is when you make that first change, there's often cascading pieces that go through. So you're looking at me, I tell you, business executive.